For 17 years, Connie DiLeo has been a missionary with the General Board of Global Ministries of the United Methodist Church. That's our, specifically United Methodist official mission agency. Now, you've already been supporting her because of your support for the United Methodist Church, but then a few years ago, you entered into a covenant relationship. And through that partnership, you've been supporting Connie even more. Connie is in her last year as a missionary with the General Board of Global Ministries. And as part of her last year, she's visiting all the churches that are in partnership with her and sort of giving her farewell address. Connie has been an associate pastor in the United Methodist Church, but as she will share with you, felt a call to go to the mission field. She served a lot of functions in the Dominican Republic, but in recent years she has been working with new church starts, especially a church that she started herself, and again, which she will tell you about. This is a special treat, folks. Be glad you're here today, because this is going to be an exciting sermon this morning. So please welcome Connie DiLeo.
Good morning. It is really a pleasure to be here, and first of all, I want to thank God for this opportunity because He's the one that's made it possible for me to be here with you. He kept me safe on Highway 85 and 485 around Charlotte. Y'all drive kind of crazy up here. They say we drive crazy in the Dominican, but you're right up there. It is my time to say goodbye, and I think, what can I share? How can I encapsulate 16, 17 years of what God has done in and through me and what I've learned and what I've seen, and how do you sum that up in 15 minutes? So I'm going to do my best. First of all, I've seen a lot of improvements, positive improvements in these last years. First of all, we got paved roads. That was wonderful. And to see the people and what it meant to them and to see their self-concept change, like, wow, we are okay and we merit paved roads. I remember when I first went there, every time I wrote an email, it was, "Oh, the dust. Oh, the dust." And then the rains came. "Oh, the mud. Oh, the mud." So that was really a positive thing to get paved roads. Our water situation has improved in our one village, Bombita, which is a mainly Haitian village. They're getting water to the village, through the pipes, to the village every day, 24/7. In La Jolla, we're not quite that fortunate, but the water comes every other day for 4, 5, 6 hours. So when the water's coming to the village, we fill up our cistern. If there's power, we pump it to tanks on the roof so that when you go in to turn your faucet, water comes out. And we're happy about that. We appreciate that. Electricity. Wow, we usually get electricity every day. Never all day, unless the president's going to be in the area. Then we have power all day. I don't know whether they're trying to fool him that he's doing such a good job that we all have electricity, but we can live with that. We never know when it's coming. One thing I don't like is when I wake up on Saturday morning and I want to go back to sleep, I want to sleep in, and I realize that there's electricity, and I have to get up out of bed and iron because I don't have any clothes to wear. So your life is kind of controlled about when there's electricity and when there isn't. The health service has improved. It still has a long way to go, but it really has improved. They have almost a 0% transference of HIV/AIDS from infected mother to newborn baby. That's amazing. When a woman comes into the clinic, we identify her as being pregnant. She is sent out to have 8 tests done, and one of them is the HIV/AIDS testing. And as soon as someone is identified as having the disease, they are put together with a counselor who guides that person through the process, gets through the medicine, and when the baby's born, they do everything they need to do so that baby does not get born infected. They have HIV/AIDS treatment, counseling, anybody who has it. If we can identify them, we get them under this program, and all their medications are provided. That's pretty amazing. The education has improved. It still has a long way to go, but it's improving. I've learned a lot. I've probably learned more than I've taught. And one thing that I always wondered is, why are there so many riots? You know, you see people on the TV, but you know, I think it's because when you're poor, you feel powerless because nobody listens to you. You don't feel like your voice is heard. And it's a way of getting your voice heard. I remember one time when I was living in Bombita, we went 8 days without electricity, and that's hard. 8 days with no power. And I called the electric company and I said, you know, we don't have any power here. So she said, well, what's your account number? And I said, well, I don't have an account number. The government provides the electricity for the school. Well, without an account number, I can't do anything. So I went into the town and I went into the power company and I said, we don't have any power. I haven't had any power for 8 days. She says, what's your account number? I said, I don't have an account number. The government pays our electricity. Well, without an account number, I can't do anything. I said, ma'am, it's not just me. It's the whole village. Okay, and then she does what Dominicans do so well. They tell you what you want to hear, whether it's true or not. They want to make you happy, so they tell you what you want to hear. Okay, we'll send somebody out by noon tomorrow. So the next day, the young men come up to my office, and they've got their tires and their gasoline and their rocks, and they tell me they're going to go up to the main road, the thoroughfare that goes from the capital to the next big town, and they're going to have a huelga, which means a riot, a demonstration, a protest. I said, no, don't do that. I went to the power company, and they promised me they were going to be out here by noon. If they don't come by noon, then you can go and have your protest. And they're like, oh, Pastor, it's too hot in the afternoon to have a protest. So, well, okay, then wait until tomorrow. Well, sure enough, the electric company did not come. So the next morning, they went up to the road, set the tires on fire, had tree limbs in the road, standing there with the rocks in case anybody tried to go around. Then the police come, and they have their tear gas. They shoot off their tear gas, and that disperses everybody. And then the next day, the electric company comes out and fixes the electricity. So I called them and I said, thank you very much for reinforcing bad behavior. And that's what is done. You know, I remember when our new hymnals came out, and I have to kind of laugh about that because it's probably been over 25 years, but to me, I still call it our new hymnals. And in that hymnal was a song that our church just loved, and we began to sing it. It says, here am I, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. And I don't know about some of you, but I could not and still cannot sing that song without tears rolling down my cheeks. Because you see, I heard God calling me. And I began my list of excuses. You know, but God, you know, I'm really busy here, and I am serving you here. I work with Habitat for Humanities. I'm director of lay ministries. I'm the associate pastor here. All my excuses. I can't go because of this or that. One day I surrendered, because I tell you what, if God has put a call on your heart, you're never going to really have peace until you follow that call. So I surrendered, and I said, okay, Lord, here am I. Send me. And he did. And I found myself in the Dominican Republic as the director of a ministry that had 2 schools, 2 medical clinics in 2 different villages, 800 children, over 80 employees. and it's my responsibility. And I'm like, what have I done? Has that ever happened to you, that you finally say yes to something and then you think, why did I say yes? I am in so far over my head. Well, that happened to me. So I claimed a scripture, and it's Galatians 2:28. And it says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. You think about that. Christ lives in you when you've accepted Christ. It's not like we tell our children that God is up there and he sees what you're doing, so, don't be naughty because God always sees you. No, God is in you. It's not like Jesus is walking alongside of you and he's always there like your best friend. He's in you. And if Christ is in you, if you've opened your heart and let Christ come in, then he comes with all his power. So I claim that. Every time I was confronted with something that I didn't know how to handle, I'm like, okay, here I am. I'm your hands and feet, but, you're the brains of this organization here. Show me what to do. Let me give you an example. When I first went there, I was asked to get our teachers under contract because we were having some problems, some situations. And so I said to my administrator, David, we need to find an attorney and we need to get these teachers under contract. He said, okay, how do we do it? I said, well, I don't really know, but I'll get back with you in a couple days on that. A couple days later, I'm in Bombita, and this woman came. She was the director of Plan International, and she had heard that COPA had a new director, so she came out to meet me. So we're visiting, getting to know each other, and she says, Connie, I was visiting the district education office, and I have a friend there who's an attorney. And I told him I was going to come out and meet you, and he said, tell her that she needs to get those teachers under contract because it's not fair what those teachers are doing to COPA. In fact, tell her that I would be glad to help. And if she'd like to come by today at 5 o'clock, we can get started. It's like, wow. Okay. And we did, and it all worked out great. Another time, I was in La Jolla, and I was sitting there at the dining shelter, and it's Caribbean. We have the thatched roofs. And I'm looking up, and I could see the sky. And I said to David, David, we need to get this roof repaired. And he said, okay, how do we do it? And I said, well, I don't really know, but I'll get back with you in a couple days. So I'm back over in Bombita, and a couple days later I go back to Loya, and when I pull up, there's a truck sitting out front loaded with palm fronds. And 3 men are up on the roof, tearing off the rotten stuff and replacing it. And so I went in the office and I said, good job, David. How did you know who to call? He said, I didn't. This guy pulls up with the truck and says, I built this 10 years ago, and I figured it probably needed to be repaired by now. So I got on my knees that night and I said, God, why did you send me here? You don't need me. He said, I don't know, but I'll get back with you in a couple days on that one. And it continued. God so showed me that he was there and that he's faithful. I mean, I knew that when I was back home at my home church, but when you're in your own element and you know what to do, when your refrigerator breaks, you know who to call. If you're going to put on some program, you know who your resource people are. But when you find yourself in a whole new situation, in a whole new culture, the same cultural clues don't work. And that's wonderful because you rely on God. It's like a glove sitting on a table is just useless. But you put your hand in that glove and it becomes a tool capable of many things. And that's us. When we allow Christ to come in us and surrender ourselves to him, we become his hands and feet. I was living in Bombita, which is the Haitian village, about 1,500 people, strongly Christian. Very spiritual people, the Haitians, and some of it is voodooism, but that village was a very strong Christian village. The young people were in church. They loved to worship. But my other village, I called it my Sodom and Gomorrah. There was one church that had about 15 members, and it was not youth-friendly. So I was really burdened by it, because I love the youth. I'm probably the oldest youth director around, I say. So I moved to La Jolla to work with the youth because it's at night and on weekends and it's not safe to drive at night. And I began youth clubs, and we borrowed a little local church, and I had my musicians from the Haitian village come over, and we started having youth services. And one of the young ladies came to me one day and said, you know, can we start our own congregation? I can't go back to that church. And I know that God doesn't want me not to go to church, but I just can't go back there. Can we start our own church? So I began with my list of excuses. Well, I'm really busy, you know, being director of COPA, and I'm not an ordained elder, I'm an ordained deacon, and excuses after excuses. And then, you know, I said, okay, God, what do you think? And he said, go for it. So we started meeting in a little garage, and we used to have an ambulance, so we converted it, and we started meeting in there, divided up into different teams, and so this couple would take one Sunday, and I'd take the next, and these two girls would take the next, and something really strange happened. People started to come. And then they started saying, but we want to have our own church, you know, can't we just have our own? I said, like, we are the church, you know, we are the people, the church is the people. And they're like, no, we want to have our own church. So I talked to the supervising pastor in the next village, and he said, well, find some land. And so we found some land, and then they're like, well, when are we going to build? And I said, well, I don't have any money, do you? And the kids are like, well, no, we don't have any money. Our offering's like $2 a week. I said, well, we better pray. And we started praying, and I got a phone call. And this guy says, I want to bring a team in March. Can we do the footers for you? So we got the youth out there, and we dug and prepared, and the team came, and we did the footers. And a month later, they're like, well, when are we going to build? So I still don't have any money. Do you have any money? And they're like, no, well, we need to keep praying. And then I got a phone call from a friend from Georgia that says, Connie, I want to bring 2 teams out through the summer. Is there anything we can do for you? And they came, and the walls went up, and the roof went on, and before we could even dedicate that, God said, I'm not done yet. You know, I see that God is driving the bus, and sometimes I'm just hanging on for dear life, because when you say yes to God, he is going to knock your socks off. He's going to amaze you at what he's going to do. We completed a 2-story building, and we've got our church going now, a church of young people. My young people drag their parents to church. Not like here. Francis brought his grandmother and grandfather. Franja, 13 years old, dedicated Christian young lady, brought her mother, and then her grandmother, and then her sister. And we see it over and over, that God is blessing that. We've been there almost 25 years now. Our young people are graduating from university. They've come back. We've hired them as our teachers. Our secretaries, our teachers' aides are all former students. Our computer teacher is a former student. Our English teacher is a former student. I just hired a young lady to be our financial administrator. She graduated in accounting. We are turning the ministry over to the local people. I have a young man who's an attorney now, and he's working with me to get our children in Bombita documented, because the same thing is happening down there. They're sending them to Haiti. They've never been to Haiti. But to become a legal citizen is a lot of paperwork, so we're doing that. None of this would have been possible without your help. And so I just want to thank you so much for, you know, all you've done, the great part that you have been in all of this. I'm going to end my message this morning with a small visual presentation so you can put some pictures to this. Keep praying for these young people. One of my young girls is going to begin seminary. We have a young couple that are in seminary that I'm hoping will be assigned to the church, so then when I retire, I know that it will continue. So thank you again for your generous covenant relationship. And